Greetings, I'm Randall Rookhill Holcomb, and today we're going to be talking about the 7x54 format. I've gathered here a bunch of pros to pick their minds and get their opinions on the new format. So guys, tell me about the new format. What are your thoughts?
This changes their format quite a bit. There's a lot more view range now with the addition of higher tier tanks for the tier 1s.
So the fact that we're going like tier 6s, tier 7s?
It'll be interesting to see if that debate gets settled. I don't know if it's going to be 2 tier 7s or a tier 8 and a tier 6.
What do you guys think? Anyone?
I think it probably depends on the map whether or not an extra tier 8 is the advantage or if just 2 tier 7s is better for map.
So Soviet, when do you think is it better to bring the more tier 8s or to go with the 2 tier 7s?
Well, the more closed maps, Himmelsdorf, for example, will be a good choice to bring more heavier tanks, right? And the open maps or mixed maps would be better to bring lighter tanks. However, and now let's remember that one side is defending, the other one is attacking. So the attacker might choose a faster lineup, while the defense might want to choose a slightly more hit point heavy lineup, which means that they'll most likely be a little bit slower. However, it doesn't mean that that's necessarily going to be the case, simply because both sides need to have a lot of map control.
Does it mean that teams are going to bring on defense perhaps the more tier 8s and then the attackers the more tier 7s, or what?
The tactic is going to dictate what lineup you want to bring.
You could bring on the defense side also a faster lineup to gain that map control away from the attacker.
7 bulldogs.
Like, if I want to expand on that, if you want to go super heavy hit points, like you would bring double Tiger 1s, let's say. But if you need like more speed or something, you would bring like a tier 8 and tier 6 maybe, or ISs instead.
And that's going to depend on the map and
your
the
strategy.
distance the caps are away from each other.
Okay, are there any maps you're looking out for where you're feeling like you have a strat figured out?
Well, possibly for like Prohorovka, you would need a faster lineup because there is the railroads you have to be concerned about that splits the two caps. So you need to be able to flex across the railroads possibly, or push to the middle and spread out, take some control away from the enemy.
On that, could you bring artillery at all? Or are we actually going to see artillery with the new format?
Soviets not going to agree with me on that, but I think FV304 might see some play. So 7 tier 8 and a tier 6 arty, which is a 304, which fires quite fast, pretty accurate. It's fast too, so if it needs to run away, it can do it easily. I think it might work, but it might be more on defense, is what I would see, because if you need to get a reset in, you can do it like easily with an RT pieces, as opposed to with the tank. You will need to probably overexpose your tank and die or something.
I would say if you're going to use it on attack, to get angles on enemy positions that are defending.
Yeah, I think you can use it on both, but I mean, I think for cap resets, it's pretty useful.
I think it comes down to whether or not you're advantaged by camping. And there are some maps that at least I've toyed with where you actually want to rush in there and get cover and stay on their base. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing that, you're allowing them to have the rest of the map. And that's not good for arty on attack. Now, if you're on defense and you know that you're going to be taking over the whole map, yeah, that's a choice that may actually be something interesting to make. You know,
I feel like taking an arty is always beneficial if you believe the enemy team's going to be stagnant rather than moving around.
Sorry, continue.
If we see any maps where if we see any maps where the best choice is to camp, you'll see arty, and there's more tiers to get arty in there. I don't know if there's any maps right now that are good enough to camp on, though. And camping is usually now in the advantage of the attacker, not the defender.
What's the best tier 7 to bring?
Tier 7s are always going to have to be in pairs, so it's a question of what 2 7s you want to bring, the same one or multiples. I think Walker Bulldogs complement each other very nicely.
Or Tiger 1.
Or T29.
I kind of disagree with that. T29 is like slower than a T32, so T-32 is already super slow, so why? I mean, he's not gonna be able to do anything. Like,
Well, we can
I
use
mean,
it for
it's gonna be
tagging
really niche.
Well, a T-29 has the 105, which T-32 can get, and it also can mount a 90, which with gold rounds has the same pen as the 90 on the T-32.
Exactly.
So, aside from
Yeah.
maybe a cupola, which is a little large, it still seems like you put it in a hull down, you play it right, it's a really good tank.
But
Weak spot's easier to hit.
yeah, it's easier.
Like you guys have a problem hitting the T-32 weak spot already?
I think the mobility here is going to be one of the big
Okay.
issues. The mobility of the T-29 may prevent it from being used simply because you're dealing with the new Tier 8 lights and you're going to be surrounded.
Yeah.
Actually, new Tier 8 lights, what do you think they do to the game? I know the RU-251 is a hot spot for some people. OP?
Okay.
OP?
Definitely OP.
Okay.
They're balanced. They're just very good.
Instead of being very good.
They're just very good.
What
is-
makes it so good though? Like detail that for me.
A 100 pen HE round makes the RU-251 absurdly powerful against light tanks.
Just not so useful
No.
against heavies.
It can be useful against heavies. That if you get above an IS-3 and just keep shooting in on top of the turret, it's gonna go through every single time.
What about the T-49? It's got the freaking 152.
I don't think we're gonna see it, you know. I don't think we. I don't think we're gonna see it in your matches.
Why not?
It depends on too much RNG.
We've seen it used in the Bernal Empires and Cunningham's thing in the Rumble in the West, and it didn't perform all that well.
Now, if you're expecting a team to bring like 550 100s, and then you can just get that thing around to the side, and suddenly you have one less 5100 on the field in a matter
But
of a second.
it's really map dependent. You
It
need to
is.
be up close to the enemy tank to be able to not rely too much on RNG, which, yeah, like I said, it's map dependent. Like, let's say I don't think we're playing mines this season, but like mines going for the hill, like bringing a T-49 would work probably because you're gonna get like super close to the enemy tank, and you can just shoot him.
If you end up in a situation where you're trying to take the same part of the map with 3 light tanks, people will be gambling with that 49 to dominate that battle.
But it could definitely throw everything into your favor.
Or completely wreck you.
So basically, we're saying it's like Russian roulette.
Approved. Are you gonna use it?
LTTP anyone?